So a few ideas for this piece. One thing is that all the slurs that I've added are editorial, so you can take them out or add more in depending on what speed you take. But let's talk about the tempo. So if you play it slower than I do, you can probably play it without many slurs. If you play it faster, you might want to add even more slurs. And because of the slurs, I've closed some of the notes onto the second string, like the E here, so I could do a pull-off there. At slower tempos, you don't have to do that. You can play an open E instead. But your tempo is going to be decided upon by bar 33 to 39. If that's the fastest you can play it, then that's your tempo. So you'll have to take your tempo based on that. Now, if you want to go a little bit faster, you could add more slurs. I go like this. I only slur the first two notes of each 16th note group. I always do that pretty consistently. But if you wanted to go faster, you could slur both of them. It would be really helpful here. I use an open string. I kind of like the sound of plucked notes in early music. This is Baroque era music, although it sounds different than like Bach or something, right? But nevertheless, I like a little bit of that scoop that the slur offers, but I like to pluck the notes as well. So I'm kind of meeting it halfway. But like I said, if you want a much more blazing fast tempo, you might want to add even more slurs. From bar 37, you could slur more there if you wanted, or do what I did. Same thing there, you could even slur all the way into the next group. And then I close that E, but you could, at slower tempos, you could play an open E. Even at fast tempos, you can do it. Oh, sorry. It's just a little bit, it's a little notey and a little bit rapid in the right hand, so like I said, experiment. That's going to be the part of the piece that chooses the tempo overall. In terms of other aspects of the music, it's in 6/8 time, so you really want a nice feel of here, 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 here. Like a really nice da 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 da. It doesn't matter what speed. If you go slow, just make sure you have a lot of that overall pulse so it doesn't get too notey on each note.
lots of the pulse. If you go faster, you can even get pretty much just the feeling of the pulse from the first beat of each bar. You could expand the beat even further. These different feels will make it feel a little bit different depending on what speed you're going. But at the very least, make sure you're thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 4, 1, 2. Often we just think of 6/8 in cut time, like as in 2 groups of 3. Ta 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 ta. 1, 2. So make sure you have that feel throughout the whole piece. The only other thing I'll say is that this particular piece, it's written in tablature originally, in Italian tablature, so it's upside down. And the only things to really think about is like note sustain. I pretty much sustain the notes within the bar, or at least within the dotted quarter note, so that you have like a lot of sustain there, but often I'll sustain them even longer, even if the music doesn't necessarily notate that exactly. Like in bar 27, I add a little tie just to indicate that you can hold the notes a little bit longer. Instead of, I have like an open-ended tie, but instead of like tying a whole bunch of notes over or just leaving it blank, I think this indicates the sustain quite nicely. So we'll just go through the piece nice and slow. Talk about here. Here, just make sure you end up with P-I-M and then A after that. You can pretty much, except for that one chord right there, you can pretty much play the whole piece with thumb on the bass notes and I-M on the top notes, throwing in A occasionally if there's like a larger string jump up to an upper string. But essentially, you can alternate I-M pretty much the whole time on the upper voice and play the bass voice with the thumb. So it's very straightforward right-hand fingering. Just try not to repeat any fingers. But there's almost no chords. There's just dyads in there. So it's pretty easy to regulate just the thumb to the bass voice and the fingers to the upper voice. Continuing on from bar 5 there. There's a couple times when you just have to remember to get your third finger on A so that you can grab the bass note afterwards. And all these notes, like they're chords, right? A major. So you have to make sure you finger them so that they can sustain. And all the fingering in the score is meant to do that. Bar 13, 14. You'll notice some places where the bass note doesn't continue droning, and there's a couple places on the second page where it might seem random, but that's what the original says. If you want to throw in extra A's or something like that, feel free to do so. So at bar 17, we start to get some 16th notes added. I slur them, but you could pluck them. They're not that fast, right? And some places like that, you still want to get that A chord ringing out, even though there's a slur, so I'll do 1, 4, and then the C sharp with my second finger. Stay in second position whenever you can, so keeping your fingers in the 1 finger per fret stance, but stay in second position as often as you can. Then you switch to first. Bar 33, we start getting these faster passages. Just remember, stay focused on that dotted quarter note and don't get caught up in the 16th notes. You want them to glide and sweep through the beat. say just follow the fingering and just make sure you've practiced it really slowly. Use a metronome just to make sure that you're practicing your slurs very securely before you start loosening them up too much. Of course, you have to scoop through the beat, but you also need kind of structured technique, right? Sometimes you'll get some weird chord shapes with the slur on the third finger just because you're holding that A major chord. Where were we? Bar 41. You could close that there, but it's not really worth it, so I don't do a slur on that particular group of sixteenths. And that cross string sounds similar to a slur. Bar 53, I just made a small note error there, but bar 53. It's a very forgiving piece and kind of a perfect intermediate level work, so I hope you enjoy.